Next, let me show you how to use the packages we just installed, Lodash and UUID. First, let's create a JavaScript file under the current project directory. Let's call it index.js. If you still remember, in package.json file, line 5, we specified the entry point of this Node project to be a file called index.js. That's why we need index.js. So here it is. Then how do we use the two packages? First, we need to import them in this JS file or module. How? It turns out that importing packages is the same as importing modules. The syntax is require. So we require a package, and then we assign it to a variable. After that, we can use variable dot to use all kinds of APIs provided by this package. So first, let's import or require Lodash. Const, and then variable name. I can use LD Lodash, or by convention, we're going to use variable name underscore. The reason is Lodash is inspired by a JS project called underscore.js. That's why we use the name underscore as the variable name for Lodash. Okay, so what is Lodash and why do we learn Lodash? Lodash is a JavaScript library which provides utility functions for common programming tasks. So the whole point of using Lodash is that it helps programmers like you write more concise and maintainable JavaScript code. By using it, it can greatly help you increase the productivity. Okay, next, let's require UUID. Const. Now this time, I'm going to use ES6 destructuring to snatch out v4 from UUID. So here's syntax, v4, then we rename it to UUID v4, require UUID. So that is, we're not interested in everything in UUID, we're only interested in the module called v4 in UUID package. Okay, so here v means version. Okay, after we have required the two packages in the current module, next is our very simple task. We're going to generate 10 UUIDs. Well, this is very simple. We can use a for loop, let I equal to 0, I less than 10. And then every time we enter the loop body, we're going to use UUID v4 to return a UUID. So no problem. But remember the purpose of Lodash. It is trying to provide utility functions. Calling a piece of code, or in this case, calling a function a certain number of times, is a common task that we developers do every day. So Lodash provides an easy API to help. It is called times. So here is syntax. Underscore dot times. This function receives two arguments. The first one is the number of times to do something. The second argument is something called iterate. In this case, is a function. So it means times will invoke the iterate function n times. In this case, n is 10. And iterate is UUID v4. So every time we call UUID v4, it returns a UUID. So internally, there is an array. So times will assemble the 10 results in this array. And finally, this entire thing returns a 10-element array. So here we're going to use const result to receive this return value. Next, I'm going to log the result. All right. Okay, so let's try it. Node index and press enter. As you can see, we got 10 UUIDs. In summary, The times API from Lodash receives as arguments the number of iterations and a function to execute n times, and it returns an array of the results. So this is very useful when you're trying to create dynamic test data. Next, I want to introduce another useful API from Lodash. Of course, there are a lot, so I highly recommend you read the documentation to know what is possible by using Lodash. Our next example is something called deep copy. First, I'm going to define a JS object, var original. So this is a very simple JS object with only one property called foo, and the value is bar. Next, I'm going to define a second variable. It's called copy. I'm going to assign original to copy. All right, my question is, after line 9, how many objects are there? So by assigning original to copy will not duplicate this object foo bar, right? Because only the reference or the address is copied. So this is something called a shallow copy. So it's not deep copy. The object is not duplicated. So what if I want to do a deep copy? That is, once I assign, then I got a new object. Okay, so first, let me copy this and then comment out. In this case, we're not using shallow copy. We want to do deep copy. All right, so here is the syntax. Underscore dot clone deep and original. After line 12, there will be two objects, exact same objects. So changing the property of one would not affect the other one. So let me show you. Let me verify this. So here we're going to change the full value of copy from bar to, let's call this new value. Okay. And next, I'm going to print original.full and copy.full. So console.log original.full. Next one is console.log copy.full. Okay, so clear. Node index.js. As you can see, the first one, original.full, returns bar, and the second one, copy.full, returns new value. So that proves that we got two copies. Okay, this is clone deep copy. Next, I want to show you how to use a package called NodeMon. Remember, we installed NodeMon globally. So if you expand node_modules, you cannot find NodeMon because it is installed globally. And why do we install package globally? When a package is used by multiple projects, then we can install it globally because we do not want to install it over and over for each project. So it seems like NodeMon is very important because every project needs it. So what is NodeMon and why do we need it? Or what problem does NodeMon solve? For example, in index.js, let's say I modified line 15. This time, I'm not going to try to print copy.full. I want to print this entire copy object. Okay, so after I modified my code, how do I see the change? Well, that's easy. We go to terminal. We're going to node index.js again. Now this time, the second log will print the entire object. So the problem here is every time I modify my source code, I have to manually type node index. What if there's a tool that can help me automatically pick up the changes and automatically restarting the application? So every time I change my source code, immediately I can see the change. Well, that's really good news for developers, right? Nodemon is a tool that helps develop Node.js-based applications by automatically restarting the Node application when file changes in the directory are detected. So let me show you how to use it. Let me clear. Okay, let me change it back to .full. All right, so this time I'm not going to use node index.js. I'm going to use nodemon index.js. Press enter. As you can see, we got 10 UIDs and we got a bar and new value, no problem. But the difference here is the last line. It says Nodemon is waiting for changes before restart. So right now it is idle. It's just listening to any change you made in the file. Okay, so this time I'm going to delete full. Okay, pay attention to the terminal here. Okay. Nodemon automatically detects the change and restart my application. So now I'm seeing the entire object printed, not just the new value. Okay. All right, next, let's say I change this to 5, okay, from 10 to 5. Now we're gonna have 5 UIDs. I don't even have to press save. And this time, it restarted my application and printing 5 UIDs. So I highly recommend you use Nodemon when you develop any Node.js-based applications. If you're working on a backend or server-side application using express.js, you are maintaining a server, right? And relaunching a server can be tedious. So you can use Nodemon to help you restart the server application when file changes. So that will be very convenient when you develop a backend application.